guys, we're in a really cool room I stumbled upon, and this is one of the nice surprises you find when you go to shows like this, something that you haven't seen before that really surprises you. I'm joined by Percy, and he is the founder of Praiseworthy Audio Loudspeakers, and these are awesome looking speakers that also sound just as good. And Percy's room here is set up really the right way, if you ask me. He's using things like DSP, room correction, good principles of speaker placement, and the designs are just as awesome to match. So I asked him to share some words about his system and his approach to how he does it. So it's all you, sir.
How you doing? Number one, thanks for you taking the time to do this video for me. I really appreciate it. This is my first time at a show. Never been to a show, so I'm happy to be here. So about the speakers, what you see here is prototype speakers that I built over, I started building the speakers in 2017. I started drawing them, you know, I do have drafting and drawing experience, so drew them out, you know, had a pretty good idea in mind what I wanted to do, and so this is the final product. For the speaker itself, it's a two-way speaker. It employs a 7-inch mid-bass driver, and this particular mod has a soft dome tweeter. The 4 prototypes, they use 2 different tweeters and 2 different woofers, and I mixed and matched them for 4 different speakers with those 2 drivers, but you know, they're mixed and matched, no 4 pair are use the same drivers. So going back to the specific model here, we show here. So the speaker is, like I said, a 2-way speaker, but it's an isobar. Okay. There's a second driver that fires into the cabinet. The speakers are mounted back to back, the 2 mid-woofers, and they have a brace in between the magnetic structures, and it has a sealed isobar system. The cabinet is pretty elaborate. The internals, it's a sealed enclosure, and the internal volume is all egg crate material. If anybody's familiar with what egg crate, it's basically just a polystyrene grid, 1/2-inch thick with sills, 1/2-inch sill. So what I did is I stacked all those egg crates together, about 18 sheets of this stuff to get the depth of the enclosure. And then once I I had to cut it down to the exact size of the internal volume of the enclosure. And I just did that with a hot wire. I built a machine, apparatus I should call it, or whatever it is. It's on a sliding table, and it pulls the egg crate structure and past this hot wire that cuts it on these angles, the final angles that you see. After that, I kind of wrapped it with more sheet, polystyrene, then a sheet of a constrained damping layer, 1/8 inch thick. So for the final layers, there's a 1-inch thick walls of cast. It's a cast cement material.
Oh wow!
Yeah, all the walls are 1-inch thick, and then the outside is only a 1/4 inch HDF for the painted model, or a 1/4 inch thick plywood for the ones that's finished in. These are finished in wood. This is a plywood oak finish. Great. All the cornering on these wooden models have the solid wood cornering. All right, all the every corner on every structure. So that's basically the cabinet. Another unique thing about the speaker is the baffle. Okay, the baffle. So let's start with the tunnel again. The isobar system, it forms a tunnel, and the tunnel protrudes out of the cabinet. Okay, the tunnel is not within the cabinet; it comes out of the cabinet. and then it's wrapped with this baffle. The tweeter and the woofer have this baffle around it. And the baffle essentially is covered in fabric. This is like a velvet fabric. But then the underneath the velvet is sound absorbent mineral wool. The stuff they use, you know.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
It's like
yeah.
That's all mineral wool behind there. So the idea was behind that was to make the baffle totally stealthy.
And just make that front reflection disappear, right?
Right. And the curved geometry helps eliminate the reflection, and the mineral wool also further eliminates any reflections and refractions. So my idea was that should make it for a very stealthy baffle, so that only the sound radiating from the driver is going to disperse into the listening area and not be hindered by, you know, baffle interactions, you know, like a conventional speaker would.
When I first walked into your room, this was yesterday, just immediately I could pick up, like, there's very little, if any, audible issues in this room. And obviously with the design of a front baffle like that, these speakers can integrate very, very well. They very much get out of their own way. A lot of speakers can't even do that.
Yeah, they seem to have good power response, which is like when you walk around the speaker from the front axis all the way over to it kind of the sound doesn't seem like it changes much. So I haven't had them measured in the laboratory to really see what the actual results are, but that's my idea. My guess is this design gives the speaker good power response, wide dispersion, over good at. From in my house, I have them set up in my house, and I can go in my kitchen, which is adjacent to the listening area, the living room, and the sound pretty much sounds similar. The highs are not as, detailed, but you can really listen and really seems like they still put out good, decent sound, even at 180 degrees away in another room, the kitchen. My kitchen is kind of open to the listening area, and I could still hear, pretty good sound coming out. So another feature of these speakers is they don't use a conventional crossover. I went with a DSP crossover.
So this is active.
It's active two-way.
That's fantastic.
It's bi-amped. So for my DSP crossover, I'm using the mini DSP SHD model. It's a 4-channel crossover system, and I think it works great. Going from there, it goes to my power amp, and then straight to the speakers, directly wired to each. From the power amp, it's directly wired to the drivers. There's definitely a lot of advantages to DSP crossover technology. The versatility that you can,
absolutely,
you can tweak your system, choose your crossover point, the slope. Each model has different drivers, so the crossover had to be kind of compensated for each driver.
Little different.
And DSP is perfect for that. You don't have to rip out the cabinet and change capacitors and coil. All that stuff can be done, with the click of a mouse. So it also, you can. The mini DSP also has the direct room equalization. That's a great feature that you can really dial in your system. These speakers are pretty flat. I have them rolling off about 35 hertz, but from there on up, they're pretty flat. And then after you do the direct live room equalization, it gets rid of any abnormal responses between the speaker and the room, and
just room issues.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. So I think I got a pretty good product here.
I think
I've been getting good response from everybody. almost everybody that comes in the room.
And I'll tell you this, like, I'm not just going around filming every room. No, I have to like it. And I was like, oh, I'm coming back here.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate your, your like for the speaker, and I'm just happy to be here. And so
I'm happy that you're here, Percy, because
thank you, man.
I could say, like, my taste has always been seeking out those speakers that I think really would objectively test well, and I think I can say I've developed a bit of an ear for it, and I can think of a few. So when I walked into this room, and it's like, that is a balanced, clear sound, and the room is not being agitated.
Yeah.
The setup is right.
Thanks. I missed you when you came in yesterday, but my son did tell me you had came in and you was going to stop back, so I'm glad you took the time to stop back.
My pleasure.
So how long were you here when you came yesterday? I had missed you.
Just for a few minutes, because I was trying to scout around, kind of planning out my day for
And you
today.
could tell that quickly that
Oh yeah.
the sound was pretty special.
There's frankly a lot of rooms here that are uber expensive.
Right.
And almost immediately you can hear that, yeah, and maybe it's not the speaker. I'll cut them some slack being stuck in a hotel room.
Right.
But that it's just not quite right.
Okay.
This room, it was like, that's right.
Okay. Cool. That means a lot to me, and that gives me encouragement to move forward with trying to actually get these guys production going, because there's some subtle changes that in the back of my head that I want to implement when the production starts. But I'm a long way from there.
Can I ask you what you're thinking for just relatively within the range price points you want to come in at?
That's a good question, but I'm thinking that a speaker like this production model, after the little tweaks are worked out, I'm thinking somewhere like maybe the mid-20s, somewhere in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, when that time comes around, man, definitely get in touch with me, because I'd love to help you promote something like this. I think you got a great product here and a good ecosystem.
Yeah, I really appreciate your your response, and I'll definitely have to do that. I appreciate you giving me this time. Right now it's about getting the speaker out. They've been in the house, cramped up in the house. Now they finally out, and yeah, so hopefully I can move forward. I would like to thank you.
Thanks, man.
Again.
Right back at you.
I want to just take time to personally thank, my family members, my wife, everybody else, my son. I know this has been hard on them because all my time, 5 years of work has been devoted to this, and, they've been patient with me and supported me, so shout out to them and thank them as well.
Awesome, man.
Okay.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Percy and Praiseworthy Loudspeakers, because they're awesome.
So, Praiseworthy Loudspeakers. First time showing out in the public, out in the wild, and I gotta say I was pretty impressed with this room and with Percy's work. They're definitely very unique looking and very good sounding. Really, to sum them up in a nutshell, they're just very clear and balanced with a nice sense of image, and it felt, well, in a word, natural. Really well integrated into the room, and with that sweet design, there's not a lot quite like it. Some of the stuff that he was going on to speak about, how the cabinets were constructed, lots of sound absorbing material, an incredibly thick cabinet, 1 part cement, 1 part HDF or ply, isobaric drivers which are mounted in opposite directions, those nice front baffles that are rounded off, padded out with mineral wool, and finished with that nice velvet material. When you consider all those factors, it just makes sense that you should have a pretty performant loudspeaker on your hands. And finally, icing on the cake was that this was an active solution. Active crossovers, DSP corrected, and then on top of that, Dirac for room, EQ, and correction. No wonder why the room sounded so good. I like supporting people that I think have forward-thinking designs and want to do things right. They're not bound by any kind of hogwash or any other audio mythos that just doesn't play out in the real world. and I hope we're going to see a lot more of Percy. Personally, I think he should try to aim to come in under the $20,000 mark, and I don't say that to knock anything, but rather just for the purposes of market penetration. But we'll see what he can do, and he's the kind of guy I want to stay in touch with and see what he can make happen. So we'll stay tuned and see what becomes of Praiseworthy Loudspeakers and when these guys get out to market, because I'm definitely going to want to know about it. All right, y'all. Catch you in the next video.